So, hello and welcome to another edition of Streaming with the Devs. I'm Steven. I'm the person you'll be sending your death threats to, and we are brought to Twitch today by OPNoobs. Our website to shill it is opnoobs.com. And tonight our guest really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him a long one anyway. It is Signal Studios game director Chris Rubyor. This man has 20 years of experience making people lose sleep within the gaming industry and has worked as the design development director, lead, and senior designer for Petroglyph Studios, senior quality assurance analyst and game designer for the dearly departed Westwood Studios, and then absorbed by EA Los Angeles. He has worked on games such as Command & Conquer, General Zero Hour, Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth, Star Wars Empire at War, and Forces of Corruption. And he is currently, as I said, the game director for Signal Studios, who has done Toy Soldiers and Ascend Hand of Kull, and has just released Savage Lands, a game that is in alpha, and has single-handedly taught me that I will never survive in the woods. So thank you, Chris, for taking time out of your schedule, first and foremost. Good Lord, how does it feel to have worked on this game so long and know that you are not even remotely close to being done?
You know what? One, we got it out the door. We got it on Steam Early Access. Super excited. It is a relief, but at the same time, we got into a really good state. Feels really good. Plays really well. There are bugs, but and there's always issues. But it is early access. But we're excited. People are, players are enjoying what they're seeing. It's a different type of survival game. As a designer, I'm kind of excited that I get to put in systems that kind of get, that are actually pretty brutal. Where in other games, you don't get to do that quite often. So this is a fun genre that I'm really excited to our team is really excited to have brought a game into. So I'm excited. I'm really happy. As we were saying just before the stream, I'm actually sitting here. I was going, I got to get those berries on those shrubs and tree nuts. So we got patches in the works right now. Mm-hmm. Our team is actually cranking away at fixing bugs. So. It's a good time. We're really stoked. We're really excited to bring something exciting to Steam.
Okay.
Different.
So right off the bat, I want to get the elephant out of the room. A lot of people would, on their first look at Savage Lands, the first thing they're going to see when they load up is basically water, a beachhead, and a forest that stretches forever in opposite directions.
Hello,
and that's it. There's very little hand-holding. So you can die very quickly without any actual input. Are you a sadist, or is that something that just kind of happened?
Well, that is actually something that kind of happened. Truthfully, it's more of an experiment. It's an experiment more than anything else, because we're in early access. We threw people into this mix. I wanted to see the reaction that people have. Some people are really good at kind of figuring things out. Other players are used to the hand holding that you would find in other games, like a lot of guys coming in, the casual players, like, well, I don't know what to do. But we have a great community of players that have built up survival guides that kind of throw players into the mix. Now, if you do pick up Savage Lands and you hit the J key, which is for journal, it'll bring up your task list. If you follow that task list to the T, I've engineered it in such a way that that'll help you get started. But yes, in general, this is the first chance in many years that I get the opportunity to actually have a little fun with the player base. So it is a little bit difficult, if you will. So,
I gotta get this question out of the way. Is this a direct response to a recent release by an EA representative that directly said, and I quote, that games are too hard? Did you want to just make it harder?
No.
Considering your past experience with EA.
I don't, it really depends on the genre of game. I think survival games are an interest. I dig survival games. I play, if you look at my Steam profile, I have a lot of different games that I play, or when I have the opportunity, of course. And it's an interesting genre. It is not designed. This genre is not meant to hold your hand. It is actually, it's one of those, it's like watching a survival show. We thrust you into the middle of something, and you figure things out. It's, in many ways there's some Minecraft elements to it where you kind of, it's all about exploration. It's all about you building the tools that you need to overcome these situations, these elements within the world, and feeling good. It's that moment when I've killed a deer, and it's exciting, even though you just killed a deer and you got some sinew. So, I mean, it's exciting. People love that stuff. Do I think games are too hard? I think it depends on the genre that you're building for. For survival games, I don't necessarily think we're that difficult. Yeah. But at the same time, I will say that I am listening to the player base, and I've already made some changes. So, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay. I do have to say I did kind of cheer a little bit when I was able to single-handedly punch a wolf to death when it was chasing me down. And I'm pretty sure the only reason I was able to survive as long as I did is because I've gotten really lucky on some of the item spawns. Stone swords, axes, things like that. I love the fact that it changes. Definitely. The layout of the island seems pretty static, but it seems like the items spawn randomly. Is that basically how it works? It's not procedurally generated, right?
So the procedural aspect, a lot of the foliage that's populated in the world, the creatures themselves are set up on unique spawning system that's actually procedural depending on where you're at in the island. So only certain types of creatures spawn on certain parts of the island. There may be small rare chances you might see a bear every now and then or a boar, but for the most part we kind of got everything in unique locations, and things that spawn around you are relatively unique. But the items themselves, yes, they are hooked up to a very unique system that allows us to kind of tune and tweak what you see. I also have it set up in a way that we give you the items that we think that'll help you get started. From there, it's all about crafting. It's all about you building. I just, as a designer and a game developer, as a game maker, I want to give you just enough so that you can get started, and then you can begin building out your stories and your experience in the Savage Lands.
Yeah, and you certainly did. Just before we got started here, I was playing a little bit more of the game, and I had just made it to the derelict town, or what's left of it, basically. And I was bleeding, I was freezing, I was well fed, but I had just gotten a chance to chop down a tree. It fell, and I was just collecting the wood that was left behind, the wooden logs, and I start losing health rapidly. I turn around, there's a wolf chewing on me. Okay. I run as fast as I can back to the town, died right in the center of town. Thought, son of a... And then I went back in. So I managed to go around the town, found 2 different towers, a very large dragon, which I'll get back to in a second, ran for dear life back to the town, finally found it, got back to my body, and I was flanked on both sides by a skeleton wielding a mace and another dog. Nice. Just as I'd picked all my stuff back up. At that point, I took off my headset, screamed a lot of obscenities, and got on the call with you. So there's that. Now, the dragon, the skeletons, the wolves, pretty much they're all out of high fantasy. Are we going to see more creatures, or is there just the fact that I haven't seen them yet?
There are more creatures in the world, and we are going to be adding more creatures to the world. So when it comes to the creature design, to talk about the world as a whole, we drew inspirations from Game of Thrones. We also drew inspiration from Skyrim, and then a lot of our creature designs came from, say, D&D. I love D&D. So a lot of we drew upon that. Building a fantasy world. It's we're kind of, the interesting thing is, I don't know. You look at a lot of other survival games. You look at like DayZ, which is a great game. They have zombies, a zombie. Different colored, different skins, but it's still a zombie. We decided, hey, let's make a fantasy game. And doing that, we're going to need 100 different creatures, and that's going to be easy, right? So we wanted to do something different, and fantasy allowed us, or gave us the flexibility to add whatever we wanted into the world. We're stuck to one type of creature. We can add skeletons, we can add hydras, we can add new dragons, we can add whatever we want. Different types of wolves, and if you see, we have wolves that come out at night. We actually have creature spawners that vary based on time of day. So we got a wide variety of creatures. If you make it to the center of the island, we have have what are called the forest giants, and they look like giant ents.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw what was left of it.
Those
Yeah.
they're pretty cool. They're essentially the guardians of the island. So we're that ties into another element, which is the lore, which we're going to kind of introduce over time as we're moving through early access, and you'll find out more about the giants, why they're there, why they haven't been destroyed, and why were all the towns destroyed, and why was this town burned down. We got a lot of cool stuff brewing. So, but yes, creatures. There will be more creatures. There's a lot of creatures spread across the island. I even have rare named spawns that spawn in the ruined areas, and if you kill those guys, kind of classic MMO, you'll get the weapon that they have on them.
Oh, wow. So basically, unlike, you kill a wolf, you find gold on them, you're going to actually find the things that you're supposed to find when you kill an enemy. Like, you're not going to find, say, a sword, a claymore just hanging out with the wolf as you loot it. No, that's perfect. Is there any chance... and again, early access, I think that needs to be reminded to everybody. It is alpha. It is early access. This is not a fully polished game. So what you see in game is not going to be necessarily in the final game. That being said, is there any chance for, say, a decay system? I mean, I know that the weapons and the armor has a decay, but what about, say, you cut down a tree and it starts to rot away after a while? Or you kill an animal and the corpse remains and it starts to rot.
Yeah.
Is there a chance for that?
Those are some bugs right now. For example, corpses should decay. After you loot them, then there's a decay timer that should kick off. So that's actually a bug right now that you're seeing. But yeah, we actually have a decay system in the game. One of the things I'm going to put in probably the second or third update from now is items that you drop onto the ground, they'll actually kick in a decay timer. If you leave items on the ground longer than, say, 30 minutes, they'll decay and kind of disappear from the world.
Okay. So go ahead, please. Oh, I was going to say about the respawn. There were instances where I would die, I would start a new game, and I would run back to my corpse, and there was actually a point where a couple of wolves were just hanging around the corpse. So was that because they were attracted there, or they just so happened to spawn at that area?
Chances are those wolves killed you. They do have in their AI code, they kind of wander around the area. So you gotta kind of watch and wait till they move away. The AI code is set up in such a way that after X seconds, they'll kind of lose interest and they'll move on, or X minutes, they'll move on. All of our creatures have a line of sight code, so if you're kind of dodging and ducking behind trees, they won't see you. So you can kind of make your way towards your corpse. That's a lot of things. See, that's what I love about the game. There's all sorts of cool little Easter eggs and things that we have in the game that a lot of people are kind of discovering now. Like you can hide in a bush and the creatures won't see you. You can actually have creatures that walk on by you. Our AI is set up. Not only does it have line of sight, but it also has hearing. So if you're going to move in the bush and rustle around, they'll hear you and they'll attack. But if you stand perfectly still, and I've done this with the Undead Furies, the guys in the armor, they'll walk right on by you, and they won't even see you. So there's really cool ways to play the game, and especially once we get our ranged weapons in the game, it'll change up the way the game, change up basically combat and the way the game's played. So, a lot of people out there, you don't want to run and gun. If you feel like you don't want to do that. You want to kind of move slow. If you see creatures and you don't feel like you're equipped, duck and hide. Take your time. And also another tip I want to give players, during the day, because this world is cold, it's frigid. It is ice cold. Unless you have certain types of gear on, because gear mitigates cold, always have a torch with you. Even if you have a torch during the day, it may seem silly, but essentially it's a heat source. And that heat source is invaluable. That cold system is there for a reason. And I know people I get cold too easy. It's like, well, you're naked and you're in the middle of the woods. Yeah, you're going to get cold. So
yeah. I mean, I love the fact that there is basically an exposure meter, a hunger meter, and a life meter. And I do kind of get a kick out of the fact that if I feed myself, I'll last a little bit longer, but I'm still going to take that chance of, say, poisoning myself on uncooked meat. I do love anytime I come across tree nuts, that seems to be the best way to keep myself alive. I don't know if it's maybe just the trail mix thing, but either way. But I love the fact, so you're going to put in projectile weapons. So crossbows, bows.
Bows are going to be
things
the
of that
first
nature.
thing that Bows are going to be the first thing that we add. Our animation. We wanted them for launch, but there were some code issues, and our team is very focused on quality and stability. So if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't make sense to say, "Hey, it's a bullet. We're just going to get it in." We're actually going to pull it out, and I'm very transparent with our community. If there's an issue, I have no problem saying, "Hey, we pulled it out because of X, Y, or Z." It's very simple. So that system will come online hopefully in our first or second update. I'm really excited about it. Bows are going to be awesome. And that projectile system leads to other things like slings and crossbows. But bows, standard, long bows are going to be the first thing that we add.
And any chance of maybe like a derelict siege weapon, like a trebuchet for the dragon?
Long term, potentially.
Yeah.
We got some cool. I know we talked about in other streams that we've done. We've talked about man traps and all sorts of cool things you can add. Building up your base of operations or your base of like we're playing an RTS. Building up, building up, your camp, and fortifying your camp to keep out enemies. There's a lot of cool things that we can do, and I definitely, as we move forward and the tech evolves and we get a lot of cool stuff in. I'm sure I have no doubt that a lot of these things like trebuchets and whatnot will come online.
Okay. So tell me about the dragon. Will we be seeing more of those, or is he pretty much the big bad? There doesn't seem to be an actual progression in this game. It's survive as long as you can. It's the most basic goal that I can see. Is there an end game for the game?
It's funny that you say that, because if you think about progression from kind of a traditional MMORPG standpoint, not necessarily, but there is a progression there if you think about in terms of survival. You have to get certain elements to survive. You have to get gear to survive. The better the gear, the chances of your survival, or that increases your survival rate. You have a house, you have fire, you have supplies. I mean, it's kind of this layered type of real-world survival element, not necessarily there's a bar that says you're now level 5. If you're wearing plate mail and you're carrying one of the best swords in the game, I'm going to say, yeah, you're probably one of the higher tier players. You've played a lot, you've slayed a lot of creatures, and you've earned the right to live in the savage lands. So in regards to the dragon, Kerr is the name of the dragon. And if you kind of look up ancient Sumerian, because that's kind of what I was inspired by, is the first one. And there's a reason why I call him the first one. So that's why I chose the name. So there's a lot of cool things that we have planned. And we also have these, taking a kind of a lost approach. If any of you, your viewers out there, even if you guys have seen the monoliths, we actually have one monolith in the world right now. And people have asked, what is that? Well, it's kind of like the hatch from Lost. It's there. What does it mean? Well, I know what it means, but I don't want to spoil it. But I can tell you, in the coming weeks, we're gonna add stuff to that, add more kind of lore to that, and then in the coming months, you're gonna see kind of some really cool changes to the world.
Yeah, that tower, that was driving me nuts. I must have circled it 3 times looking for a way in. So that's just one of those, we're going to show this to you. You can't have it yet, but we're going to show it to you.
Yes,
Okay.
and if you go by the towers, you'll find things like frost fern, and a flower called night blooms. They're actually drawn to magic. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for frost fern flowers, they're up by the towers and any place that might have these, and you'll also find them in the ruins as well.
I'm going to jump away from the lore really quick. Odin's Rage asked me a question that I really wanted to know, and I think it's probably already hinted in the game. There's a page in the journal which just has a pair of eyes and a big question mark. Is there a chance that some of us Rangers are going to get a chance to capture and or tame some of the creatures so that they'll fight for us?
Yes.
Or be a walking... Yes?
Yes.
Because I foresee myself having a whole pack of wolves following me and kill them as I need meat, basically.
That's funny, because I envision having a pack of rabbits that follow me around. I can just grab their pelts or, my little food supply, but everybody's like, wow, you got wolves, you got bears. He has rabbits. So yes, creature taming is something that we want to add, and it's going to be part of a larger content drop.
Awesome. And we have no idea when that drop's going to happen as of yet.
Not yet. We're still planning it. Right now, where we're at in development, we're fixing a lot of bugs. We want to try to make the game as stable as possible. There's also balance issues. I'll call it out. I want to ease up some of the outer island elements so that it's easier for players to get into, and then increase the difficulty, have a better difficulty curve going into the island, where some of the more unique, interesting creatures can be found. So I still got a lot of work on that front. So bear with us as we go through it. But you'll see, every week we're going to try to put out an update.
Okay, awesome. Is there any chance of, say, an underground cave network? I mean, there's a lot of space on that island, but are we ever going to go underground?
We want to do dungeons, yes. We just got to figure out because the way our map system, all the procedural stuff that we use for height terrain generation, and we got to figure out the best way to implement it. That might, it could come online. I can't give an exact date. We just got to figure out what makes sense for the technology, and most importantly, what makes sense, for the gameplay experience. I mean, I think it would be cool. Imagine going through a dungeon. What's one of the most important items you got to have? A torch. What happens if the torch goes out and you have nothing in the dungeon? Well, it would be pretty cool if all of a sudden you start seeing red eyes appear because the light is gone, and then you get swarmed. I mean, so there's some cool ideas that we have. We just got to make sure it meshes with the tech and it's a fun gameplay experience. So we gotta hash it out a little bit more.
Okay. Anybody that's ever known me, if I've done something pen and paper or even MMO related, I've almost always played either a rogue or a magic user of some sort. Now, what kind of magic, because obviously we're pulling from high fantasy with all the other creatures, what kind of a magic system do you foresee happening, if any, like a major magic system maybe in the future?
The world, so this, it's a brutal, savage place. When we infuse magic, I don't want to suddenly create a caste system where players are, you got a wizard over here. I want the magic to be infused within the armor, within the weapons, within the items. And, a lot of players have to go out and find those components in the world to imbue their weapons with magical properties. To me, that makes the most sense for the world that we're crafting right now. Instead of, I'm going to play a wizard. I mean, that's great for WoW and other games, which do a great job, but it doesn't make sense for the gameplay experience that we're building. So what you can expect to potentially see, and I'll give a little bit away, is weapon attributes or magical attributes on weapons, and potentially rings and amulets and things like that give you the ability to, enact certain types of magical abilities.
So are we going to, just out of curiosity, will there ever be a chance of finding the One Ring? Or is it going to be totally original, or as original as you guys can make it, considering the lore? Is it going to be like this huge batch of lore, or is it just pulling from other sources? What kind of lore do you have planned, or maybe planned?
Well, the lore itself will be unique. I mean, we're not gonna say, we're gonna pull from over. It's gonna be, this is something that we're working on now. What makes sense for the Savage Lands, this world, drawing into it. I don't want to throw a bunch of pages all over the place that, look, I found a page on a table and I can read. I want to do something that makes sense. I also want the world to tell a story. Players can look at the environment. You can find. So you're going to see the world, over time, kind of reshape itself as we kind of add in unique, biomes and areas and stuff. Not to say that what we don't have now what we have is great, but we're gonna craft more of those elements into the world. And that's not to say we won't have things that you can find that explain more lore about the game. We also have a bestiary that's going to be added to the journal to give you more details about the creatures in the world. And also, have more. The journal will explain more about the items that you find. So, I really want the world to tell the story. I want players to create I really love it when we can create an environment that players can kind of create their own stories. We give them just enough to create these really cool experiences. So that's kind of our goal, is to infuse this world with enough elements that you, the players, can craft your own, your own stories from what's there.
So, do you think that this, as it is right now, do you think that this is because there is multiplayer, and I'll get to that in a second, which seems really, really fun. I've noticed that if you go it solo, you're kind of screwed. Is it suggested that people team up, for example, or would you recommend, go it alone and see how difficult the game can be for you?
Well, that's one of the things I'm kind of working on now, is that initial user experience, and making that a little bit easier for solo players to kind of get into. But we do like the idea that the tier 4, tier 5 creatures, kind of the epics, require you to work with other players to take down. You're not going to take down the dragon solo. You simply won't. You're not going to take down forest giants solo. It just won't happen. Even some of the tier 3, kind of like the undead furies, it may require you to play with other players. But that doesn't mean you can't have a good experience. And that's what we're that's what we're working on now, is to make it so that you can get into it, and if you want to go play with other players, you can. We're going to be adding PvP, so that you can create hostile servers. So if you want to have a world that you can just go and attack other players, you can do that. Or you can set your server up to be PvE friendly, and there's no, you can't go and attack other players. So you can actually, right now, if you wanted to, you can loot other players' corpses. So
nice.
Just throwing that out there.
So with the back end for the multiplayer, is there ever going to be like a DM system where one person kind of has control of the tools and drops things everywhere, kind of directs traffic, anything like that?
It's hard to say right now. Okay. That would be a good question in 4 months. Because right now a lot of our focus is on bug fixing, stability, content creation, and where we're going to be. So I don't have a good answer for you on that one.
Oh,
would be pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Maybe in a content patch in those couple of months. So what was, cycling back a bit, what was the original moment when you knew, I need to make this game? What was that eureka moment for you when you came up with the idea?
When we early on, when we kind of teamed up with Digital DNA, we were talking about different ideas of games that we could create with our partnership. And one of them was, well, we kind of all like survival games. Why not make a survival game? But then we look, of course, being old, grizzled, veteran devs, we kind of look at the market like, what's out there right now? And then that's when we said, oh wow, nobody's done a fantasy survival game. And it was that moment we said, this would be pretty epic to do something that nobody else has tried. And I know why they haven't tried it, by the way. It's incredibly, the amount of content that you need to make it unique, and it's a pretty daunting task. But we wanted to, we saw that opportunity, that moment, or that opening where it said, hey, let's do something that nobody else has done yet. So everybody's like, yeah, it was all in agreement. Let's move forward. I came up with kind of a high level, and we just executed on it and started implementing. And truthfully, as a small indie, because our team is really small, a lot of it was iterative, where we started putting stuff in, making changes. It's not like being on a big 100-man team where it's like, here's the GDD, let's follow the GDD to the spec. And I've been on those teams. This was, hey, here's our design spec. Let's get a lot of these basic systems in place, that makes sense for a survival game, and then we'll iterate on the gameplay from there. And it turned out really well, and everybody is really that works on the game. And even guys here at Signal that are working on Toy Soldiers, everybody really loves it. It's cool. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah. So was multiplayer kind of expected from the get-go? Did it start as a solo game? It was always meant for multiplayer?
It always planned. We knew that we couldn't make a fantasy game and not have co-op. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of a gimme. We also wanted to have PvP, hostile, kind of classic Ultima Online style, where you go slaughter people and then take their stuff. Players want to play that way. But also, when we were kind of hashing that out, we're like, yeah, we better give players the option at the admin level to set up the servers how they want to play, so you don't have these crazy raiding parties coming into your server and taking everything that you own. So that all that stuff kind of evolved over time. But we knew from the very get-go that we wanted a cool idea, which was fantasy survival, and we wanted to have multiplayer. That was all. There was no question about it.
Okay, so I'm taking a glance over at the chat channel. One is going to be a rather sharp question, but sure. I figure we might as well get that one out of the way. Again, from Odin's Rage. Now, what would you say to someone that kind of sees this and hears all this and goes, "Oh, this just sounds like AD&D. This sounds like Dungeons and Dragons, just no different than anything else." But you've got your own lore coming, so it's not like we're going to see Drizzt or the Underdark anytime soon. So, what do you think about that comparison?
I mean, we got to, a lot of games, a lot of developers, they draw inspiration from, various sources and influences that, books and movies. And so for us, to make a fantasy game, we drew upon various, points of inspiration. What makes Savage different? We got a lot of cool characters, but we take, you play like World of Warcraft, you play other RPGs, and they play like you would expect an RPG. We try to take that survival, what makes the survival genre really awesome, and infuse that with fantasy and give you something that nobody's really kind of attempted yet. So you get that, well, I got to maintain my life, I got to build up my character, I got to do all this cool stuff, and then you got to survive, and then you got to go out in the world, you got to go loot creatures, you can go get epic stuff. I mean, I have this philosophy, it's a necromonger philosophy, you keep what you kill. And that's how I built a lot of the creatures in the game. You kill the undead furies, they will drop that armor that they have on them, and you will keep what you kill. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and sure, you got skeletons. A lot of fantasy games have skeletons, but I think that's what makes it cool. That's what allows the game to be a little bit more accessible, because you have a lot of these recognizable type of characters that players can go, "Oh, that's a really cool looking skeleton," or they have dragons. Done. We don't want to go off and make these really crazy, I do want to make really crazy creatures, but at the same time have elements and ideas that a lot of players can recognize and go, "Oh, that's really cool. I'm bought in." So, as a game maker, inspiration is drawn from many sources, and we've been doing it for 20 years. I've been doing it 20 years that way. I can tell you that Command and Conquer was drawn from various resources, various cool inspirational sources as well. It's just how we make games.
Yeah, I think it has to be kind of expected, just to opine a little bit. I think it has to be expected that at some point somebody's going to end up reusing someone else's idea. I mean, it's been done in fantasy time and time again. It happens. But as opposed to, in my opinion, for what I've seen, as opposed to a campaign in D&D where everybody has a common goal, your only goal here is to not die.
Yes, it's about creating an experience that's compelling and fun. Something, that can draw players in. Sure, I mean, really good game developers can take a lot of existing ideas and bring them together and make a fun experience. It's about making that fun experience, taking these really cool inspirational elements, bringing them together in a way that players can have fun and do something unique that you can't do in other games. And I believe Savage Lands, we're doing that. We're doing something, we're taking great elements of the survival genre, mixing that with really cool fantasy elements, and doing something that can suck you in. Is it brutal? It's the Savage Lands. I mean, it's a brutal place. As the game director, I can tell you, we're working on balance. We're tweaking things, and it'll get better over time. But it's about the experience. If we can draw people in, we've done our jobs well.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a lot of, and this is going to lead into the next question that I'm really curious about. A lot of times you find that AAA games will get modded, and they will have the exact same aspect that Savage Lands has into it. They'll have the hardcore systems, the eating to stay alive, the sleeping to stay alive. Are we ever going to see, say, maybe a mod tool set for other people to start creating their own stuff?
Right now, again, we don't have any plans on our plate for mod tools. But because we're early access, if the community, and right now we've gone from, I gotta throw this out there. We've gone from, hey, this is our idea, this is what we're building, to what do the players want? You know, we've given you guys, the community, the players, a good tool set. Now we're in a mode of what are the players really asking for, and let's start kind of infusing those elements on top of some of the cool things we want to get in, like magic and more lore. But let's start giving them more of what they're asking for. These are people that have paid for the game. They, you know, I like crowdsourcing ideas. You know, the community they have a lot of great ideas. A lot of guys that are passionate and dedicated, guys and gals, I should say, that are passionate and dedicated about the games that they play. So why not work together to build something great?
Yeah, I mean, what is the team makeup of Signal Studios? I mean, you're not going to be like a huge team, right? There's how many people are on the team right now? Out of curiosity, 7.
Yeah, so it's our team it's 2 studios combined. We're working with Digital DNA, and those guys handle a lot of the back end, like the code. Signal handles the majority of the content creation. So that's all the art. That is the character creation, design, and balance. But truthfully, when it comes to like design, we all work together with, you know, and kind of hash out ideas because there are code implications to certain systems and whatnot. So we try to come up with the best possible solution. But it is, as of right now, 7 individuals, 7 core developers on the project, and that kind of goes up to 10, and it comes back down. But ideally, if the game does well, we want to boost those numbers up, especially on the content side, so that we can start cranking out more stuff.
Yeah, so about that, at some point, the game, when it does get fully released, is there ever an intention for, say, DLC?
Absolutely. You know, kind of like expansion type content.
Yeah.
Yes. Once the game has gotten past early access, which in itself will have what feels like DLC drops because we're adding in the game, essentially more of the game. Post-launch, yeah, we definitely want to add to it more. You know, we've talked about adding more islands, players being able to build boats and go to, you know, new shores. So there's a lot of cool things that we've kind of riffed on that would be a lot of fun.
So anything like you can already kind of build a forge. I mean, I've not lasted very long, so I've basically had to scavenge my way through Savage Lands. So you know, there's that. But so the idea of maybe more player housing, more player created furnishings, maybe things like that.
I want players. You know, we actually have I have a ton of props already cut up, which would allow players to build them. We just haven't put them in the drop yet because when we locked down, it was like no more new stuff. So which helps us stabilize the code. But we actually I want players to be able to build more props around their houses. I want to give more templates. We've even talked about potentially down the road doing things like freeform building, much like you would see in Rust. So we have a lot of cool ideas that we want to do, but we will be giving players more stuff. I want to add more weapons to the game. I want to add more armor to the game. I want to add more creatures to the game, more fauna. So there's a huge list of things that we want to do. It's with a small team of 7, though. It's just kind of prioritizing that out and phasing it out and what makes sense and when.
Okay, so will we ever see maybe like a character creation screen, male, female, other races? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do. The character is. We actually redesigned our character before launch. I don't know if anybody ever knew that. We had kind of our early character in. It was great because it helped us prototype out a lot of stuff, and then we got close. We're about 2 weeks out, and then we just said, you know what? Let's put the new character in, and we had a brand new character with brand new armor that was all redesigned and built for the world, because our original armor was just kind of put in there initially. You know, just kind of stubbed in, and then we redesigned all the armor so it would fit within the world, and we put that in 2 weeks before we shipped. So there's a total of like 10 sets of armor in the game, and there's 20 different weapons that can be, as of right now, 20 different weapons that can be crafted and looted.
Okay,
which is huge.
So of the creatures that are in there right now, just these are kind of just personal curiosity. Are there any creatures from fantasy that you originally wanted in the game but couldn't be for one reason or another? Maybe it was too hard to design. Maybe it was the mechanics weren't right. Maybe it was overpowered or underpowered. Anything like that?
Um, I have a whole list of creatures that are on the plate that we're going to put in. But one of the creatures I wanted to get in, they're called swarmers, and essentially they're kind of like small little trollings that just move in packs, and they're kind of like 1 or 2 hit kills. But because they're more ferocious than wolves, you see them, little beady eyes, and they run. They just kind of run, and you're like, what the heck are those? Like little voodoo witch doctor guys. I wanted to get them in. We didn't have time. We couldn't. Animation there was a lot to do. But we have things like what is another one we have? We have leeches that I wanted to put on that, like these frost leech things that I wanted to put on the trees that would fall down on you and start attacking you. We wanted to wait because the code, to do it well, it would have taken a lot of unique code. And then there's this giant. I want to get in crows and all sorts of other birds that you can take down, but I wanted to have bows in because you can't just run up to a bird with an axe. It's not going to work out too well. So I wanted to get bows in first before we put in different types of avian type creatures. So, and then things like different races, I definitely want to do. I want to get a female character in the game as well. We focused on the male character because it allowed us to work out a lot of the tech and kinks first, and then that would make it more easy for us to integrate the female character into the game.
Okay. If you had say for the sake of argument, you had the huge team, what would you want to see happen to this game in the future? How big is too big? Is this going to lean toward MMO, or is this going to be a standalone experience forever and a day?
If I had the team,
totally
Shadows of Mordor type team, I'd want to lean it more towards, I like MMO. I love MMOs, but I would love players to be able, in an MMO, you can play by yourself. You can go do things, do quests. You're not bound by having to play with players. But I also like being able to play with other players to accomplish great things, go take down the dragon. So in my perfect world, I would love to be able to, have large servers that players can kind of get into, lots of creatures, lots of different things that they can do. Players can kind of hone out the tasks that they want to go out. Tons of weapons, tons of armor. If you want to have your one guy in your party that all he does is craft, great. You want to have the one guy that all he wants to do is mine, fantastic. You can build out a whole clan that has different tasks that they need to do for the greater good of the clan so that you guys can go out and raid and do lots of cool stuff. That would be in a world that feels like it's living, things that change, have more in terms of the environment. The world becomes more harsh. Dragons invade, all sorts of cool stuff. If I had the team and the manpower to do it within a year, there's a lot of cool and amazing things we could do. Dungeon systems, and I could go on and on.
No, go on and on. This all sounds amazing, honestly. So I think the question was just asked if there ever might be, say, a class system, like a support class, or like what you were just saying now, just not just a miner or a gatherer, or maybe even possibly like a Sim City style. You create your little settlement and send your minions out, kind of like the system that was released in WoW to pull from an MMO, the garrison system. Yeah, anything like that?
Potentially. We weigh a lot of things out. If the player base really wants something like that, we'll look into it. It really comes down to, does it make sense for the experience? Will it break kind of these cool survival elements that we're trying to maintain? The survival, you building up, and the progression being through the gear and the things and everything that you acquire as an individual in this world. Does it all make sense to add a class system? I dig class systems. I love it, but does it make sense as of today? I can say no. But would it make sense 4 months from now, 5 months from now? Potentially, yes. So if you have a strong opinion about it, head over to our Steam forums and please give us feedback and suggestions. And if you have ideas, throw them out there. I love reading that stuff.
So funny that you mentioned Steam, because my next question is, will there ever be, say, Steam achievements by chance, or even, say, the workshop?
We want to do trading cards and achievements in the next month or two. So, and workshop is something that we got to research more. Again, doesn't make sense, but that would be further down the road. But I can guarantee you, achievements and trading cards will actually be in the game in the next couple of months.
Okay, awesome. Just going down the questions. Any thoughts on adding weight to the game, affecting other stats like temperature and stamina, as well as maybe affecting fighting/harvesting?
Yes, we talked about weight. It's one of those things that I'll probably play with a bit more to figure out how and what it impacts, and what's the benefit of having weight, and what are the cons of having weight, and would it be fun? It's funny because we had durability when you were sprinting. Your boots would actually take more damage, which kind of made sense. You're sprinting and running, your boots are going to wear down, but everybody hates it. They despise it, and no matter what I do, so I actually just gutted it. So again, an idea that sounded really cool at the time actually didn't pan out. So it's something I'll play with a little bit more. In terms, the whole weight concept, and if it's something, we'll get it in there. The great thing about early access is we can play with it, and if nobody likes it, we can just pull it out. So maybe we'll see.
Okay. So I'm just going through the chat once more. Again, reminder, folks, for the best questions that we can find, keys are being given out for Savage Land so that you can die just like the rest of us. So if you've got a really good question, a burning question, he's right there. Please ask. One of the good questions in there from Devlin Pixie, something got me thinking earlier. Loot spawns are items spawning following your progress, like simple tools and items at the start and further into the game, more advanced/better items fitting your progress? If not, like the idea, or are there plans to implement something similar?
So yes, there are, the way it's set up, the way the spawners are set up. I don't necessarily want to give details on how exactly the spawners.
Sure.
But there are the way the spawners are designed, they are set up in a way that it helps you kind of initially start, and if you fall, if you die, you can kind of recover if you know where to go. You've learned the island a little bit. You can go to the necessary areas to kind of recover a bit. So, but I also have Easter eggs embedded in the island that nobody's found yet. A lot of cool individual loot spawners that if you find them, it's pretty epic.
So can you tell us maybe one of the Easter eggs so that people might be able to know? Not at all?
They're scattered around the island, out in the water, out in the, they're all over. So there's about 4 of them. Okay. So hopefully you guys find them.
And that it doesn't matter what the game mode is. It could be solo. It could be multiplayer. It makes no difference. They're all there.
Nope. Just look for the skeletons on the ground.
Look for the skeletons on the ground. Well, while stepping over my bodies, because I have lost so many of them. Again, have to remind people, it is an alpha, so strange things are going to happen. Can we keep the flying skeletons, please? Because I ran into a situation near one of the towers where I just saw a shadow. I looked up, and there was a skeleton just flying around. Can we keep that?
That bug has plagued me, and I'm trying to figure out what it is, because all the collision looks fine, but there's like one skeleton that just defies all logic, and it's like, how is he getting up there? So, we're gonna fix it, just a bug, but I really don't know what's going on there. So I'm gonna have to have the code team take a look at that.
Well, I hope he stays, because I think that's worthwhile. It'll be good target practice for when you're training. People
get a kick out of him now. They're like, oh yeah, that floating skeleton. He's a great. I know exactly where I'm at when I look up.
Just going through the game, there were a couple of things that I was wondering about. You mentioned about imbued items to help along. Is there any intention for the inebriated among us myself included. Is there any intention of, say, adding alcohol in there? It would keep a person a little bit warmer for a little bit while longer. Is there any chance of items like that? Simple items, not magically imbued?
Yeah, I actually want to add stuff like that into more stuff like that, being able to distill your own fine spirits, if you will, and elixirs and potions and all sorts of fun stuff. So that's actually on our plate to get in. I am bringing on another designer to help me kind of craft that stuff out while I work on a lot of balance and other elements in the game. So yeah, the recipe list and the things that you can kind of brew or cook or craft, that list is going to grow immensely over time.
Because I figure it could be, kind of like the St. Bernards with the keg around their throat, maybe like a little Drake just floating around.
Just kind of a quick pick-me-up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I also, I have to reference her, Chloe. I talked to her the other day, and I'm wondering, can we do like DLC drops, like just like piles of dragon excrement? Just call them dragon drops.
Dragon drops.
Can we do stuff like that?
I think for a small price, we could add micro. Yeah. No, that's a great idea, right? Dragon drops. Oh boy. No.
All right.
No.
No, it's just going to be a simple, like a chest in game. That's fine.
Maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. From a technical standpoint, does the land go on forever? It's an island, obviously. We've already talked about that. But how big is this island?
It's about 4K. It's about 4K by 4K.
4K by 4K?
Yeah.
And then
it's
at some
big.
point... Yeah, no kidding. And so eventually we'll see cave systems. Will we ever see something like maybe venturing into any mountains by chance? Any kind of mountain ranges on some of these future islands?
Yeah, I mean, if we, depending on what direction we take post-launch with adding more islands, they could be very distinct, tie into the whole kind of lore and theme and magic. Absolutely. More, we want to add more distinct feature, unique kind of features to the island, higher peaks and whatnot. So we just got to play with the tech a little bit more and massage it. But there's a lot of cool things that we can do that, just hang in there. What I'm excited about is that all these things that we want, that we're going to be doing, will just be evolving the game. And as a developer, you don't often get to do that. You kind of just launch, old school. You just launch a game and hope for the best. What I love about early access, we get the game out there kind of in a really cool state, and then evolve it. And it's incredibly exciting. So a lot of things that I say, hey, yeah, sure, we can add this. It's very true. We can add that in time and even more and a ton more. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm kind of excited over the next 10 months, which is what our early access plan is, to see how the game evolves.
Okay, I know somebody asked about boats. Well, I'm going to presume that if you're going to add new islands, you have to be able to travel to those islands. Any chances of having to... Is it going to be like, say, maybe a quick travel system from island to island, or is it going to be a situation where you have to get enough wood, build a boat, and then somehow survive the voyage from island to island?
I would prefer you build a boat and then have to travel to the other islands and then brave the ocean, the waters, and the monsters that will lurk in the waters.
Nice. Okay, just scanning through the chat channel to see if there's any more questions. In the meantime, you said, I can't help myself, you said you had a couple of stories of the dearly departed Westwood Studios. Is there anything... What is your opinion of Command & Conquer currently? If you can answer that or not.
To me, Command & Conquer will always be one of the greatest RTS franchises. I love what Blizzard's done, but I also loved Command & Conquer dearly. It was a unique experience, something you don't find anymore. The simplicity of the overall experience. You look at a lot of RTS games today, they're incredibly complex. Command & Conquer just had this unique simplicity about it that just made strategy games fun. You don't find that all too much anymore. So, it's a franchise, an IP that'll always be near and dear to my heart. I was there when it was being created, so I can say that. And I tell a lot of people this. As a developer, I've been pretty fortunate and blessed throughout my career to have worked on amazing titles and with amazing teams. I mean, to be one of those few developers that can say, yeah, I worked on the team that helped create an entire genre of gaming. Not many people can say that. So, and I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty amazing. And then you look at all the games that I've worked on over the years, and they kind of add up. But it's like, wow, I worked on Star Wars, I worked on Lord of the Rings, and when I was at Microsoft, I got to work with the creator of Panzer Dragoon. I mean, all these things. It's just like pretty amazing as a game maker. And then having doing a lot of games myself, and having now launched Savage Lands, it's like, yeah, this is, I kind of live the really cool developer dream. I've been pretty fortunate. So, and I still talk to a lot of guys from back in the Westwood days. It's funny though, I will say, having done this for 2 decades, and I have a lot of, because when the DigiPen guys come in, the kids come in, like, oh, what have you worked on? I'm like, yeah, one of the first games I worked on was Lion King for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Like, oh, I love that when I was a kid. I was like 5. And of course I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? So, it's pretty amazing. And, I've met a lot of the old school guys, too, that go back to the days of the 80s. I remember when it was in the 90s for me, and I got to meet some of these guys that worked on, like, King's Quest and a lot of those old games. And it was pretty epic for me. So, it's seeing the generation, new generation come into gaming now is pretty cool. So, and being able to give those guys guidance and, kind of help them and give them the knowledge that they need to kind of get started has been pretty awesome. But I can tell you, back in the days, we didn't have all these cool tools like Unity and Unreal and the Crytek engine, nothing. It was all homegrown pain.
So obviously, you've been on both sides of it at this point. You've gone from the AAA big name studios, and now you're in the more intimate setting where you kind of answer pretty much to yourself and everybody else on the team. If you had to go back, would you, since it's much nicer? Well, it's easier to be an indie dev at this point. The tools are much more readily available, like you said, Unity. Would you still recommend anybody going to a AAA studio?
Absolutely. I think the experience alone is it's an incredible journey. I mean, every journey is different, and making every game is different. And if anything, from making indie games to making AAA games, it's an experience that one day later on in your career you can draw from. And that's making. I will tell you this: making Savage Lands, it's those experiences from my past that have helped me persevere to make and our team has the same amount. I mean, our guys, if you were to combine our experiences, we have like 100 years of game development experience on this team, It's those experiences that helped us get this game out very quickly. So I would, all of us, it's about making games. But yeah, I would say any new guy, any new, the kids coming into the industry, yeah, it's worth going to work at EA or Microsoft or all these. You get a lot of experience that you normally wouldn't otherwise get. And for those guys that are currently working at or working at the big companies, yeah, I would say go work at the smaller devs. You'll learn a lot on how these processes work, and that is where I've been incredibly fortunate. I've been on many sides of the fence. And I can, and it's easy to draw from those experiences. And I know how to talk the talk, walk the walk. I've been, again, pretty fortunate. So, yeah, making games is making games. If I'm at a publisher, if I'm at a developer, or if I'm just by myself in my home office, it's just, you got to have it in your blood. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of those, I'm not a kid anymore, but I'm just going to say I'm one of those kids. No, there's a fire for us game makers that just burns, and it cannot be put out in any way. And regardless of being on a team, when I worked at EA, I was part of the EA spouse team on Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. But you can't quell that fire, regardless of the pain and trials and tribulations that you go through. You cannot extinguish it if you love what you do. And I'm one of those developers that I love what I do. So be it Microsoft, be it Signal, as long as I'm making games, I'm a happy cat.
Yeah, because you started just totally out of the blue. Somebody said, "Hey, do you want to work on this team? They're doing stuff." And you were working what? You were working with computers at the time. Somebody said, "Hey, you want this job?"
This is a great story, by the way. When I got out of high school, I was working at a video store when they had video stores, like VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And I was doing that while I was going to school. Yeah. And my old manager, who used to work at the video store, went over to Westwood, and he kind of managed their customer service. He called me up one day. He's like, "Hey, Chris, there's an opening in QA. You want to come work? You want to come over here and interview?" I'm like, "I'll be right there." So I went down to Westwood, and it was Westwood. They were in Las Vegas, which is where I was at. And this is 94, February of 94. Went down there, did the interview. The guy's like, "All right, it's going to be a lot of work." I'm like, "I'm making games, man. How is this going to be hard work?" So, went from working at a video store right out of school to working at Westwood, paying for college, making games, working in QA. But unlike a lot of developers, I actually had a really cool dev course. Worked in QA, which I would recommend a lot of developers do because you learn a lot about how games are made early on. I moved into marketing. I actually went into PR for about 6 or 7 years, and did PR for that long. I worked in community management. I was actually doing community stuff before community was actually a thing for Command & Conquer. So I would invite community websites out to Westwood Studios, like StarCraft websites, and to get them to write articles on their website about Command & Conquer, which, hey, that was pretty cool, right? But I was doing all the stuff that everybody talks about now. I was doing that back in the 90s. Well before before that became like a really big thing. And of course, all we had, we didn't have Skype and Twitch streaming. All we had were chat channels. So we do developer chats. Those were pretty big. But I did that for a while, and then I got into design. The president of Westwood Studios, his name was Brett Sperry. I worked with him for years, and he said, "Chris, you got what it takes to be a great designer. Just do it." So, he set me. I actually had to do a test. So I went down and did a test, spent months designing units for Command & Conquer 3. But in QA, we also helped out the designers as well. So I already had the background. And then, I spent after hours, long story short, passed the test. And here I am today. And I can say I love design. I love managing teams. I love helping out new designers, new developers, artists. It's a cool industry. This is one of the coolest industries you could ever be in. So I love talking to people. I love talking to you guys. Streaming. This is awesome. So
it's weird to look back and say you were doing stuff that people are now blasting all over the place when there was no technically there was no internet in the early 90s, not until like after 96.
Yeah, I actually worked on one of the first internet games, Monopoly. Westwood created one of the very first internet games, and that was Monopoly. Cool story with Monopoly. One of the things I did when I was in QA, because we were working long hours and I was going to school, we had the easy ability to manipulate the AI. So when we were playing online, I would have an AI play for me. So I manipulated it to be really awesome. So the guys one day came over by where I was actually sleeping, and they walked by and they're like, "Holy cow!" They're like, "Why does Chris keep winning?" And they would keep calling my name, Chris. And one day it crashed. They were tracking down a bug, and my AI crashed the game. And they came over, and the QA manager's looking at me. He's like, "Son of a," and they're like, and the coders came up. The coder Mike Legg is like, "Dude, that was awesome." So it's a cool story, but. I got off a tangent there.
That's fine. Tangents, it happens.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. But yeah, Westwood created one of the first internet. I remember when the internet became a thing, and we're like, "Wow, we got this web browser tech at Westwood. This is amazing. You can talk to people and see things, and there's news." It was. We had internet stations, and the QA team, though, we had internet at our stations because we're testing Monopoly, and It was like, wow, those QA guys were yeah, that was a cool time. Netscape.
So
Who doesn't remember Netscape?
I still have Netscape. I mean, granted, it's I still have AOL discs laying around as coasters.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that. CompuServe, though, that was the good stuff. So getting way off the tracks now. So last couple of questions, if you can entertain them about Savage Lands. One major question is character aging. Is that a possibility at some point? I know it was answered in the chat by Chloe. Thank you. But if anybody can survive long enough, is there the possibility for, say, aging, like hair growth and whatnot?
I would love to have that. I think that would be awesome. So
Nice.
is there a possibility? Potentially. I mean, I think it's an amazing idea. So those that have survived 40, 50, 100 days, and you kind of your character kind of shows the signs of the weather, weathered, beaten down. It would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
And any chance for NPCs? Maybe some old raggedy hermit that wants to stab you or gives you things or
that's
just
a tricky.
babbles.
That's a tricky one because I don't want to turn the game into WoW, where there's a question mark. I got to go get my quest that I'll never read, but I got to go do my tasks. I don't want to turn the game into that. But there might be, we might do things with cool characters that wander the lands, like the Necromancer or something that you're like, wow, who is this cat?
Yeah.
And you may interact with him. He may give you some knowledge, or you could fight him. Come up with cool ways that make sense for the world. I just don't. My fear is turning it into that static MMORPG where it's like, go visit Bob Dwarf in the town and get your quest to make the hammer. And I don't want to turn it into that, if at all. I don't want to go that route. But I want cool things, like I want a roving necromancer in the game with skeletons that follow him around, that if you have the right components or you found the right magical thing, he'll stop and he'll talk to you. And he'll give you, that would be cool. He'll acknowledge that you exist, or he'll kill you. One of the two. That to me is interesting versus the static NPC. So we got to find ways to make that work.
So kill you, bring you back, maybe, res your corpse before you can get back to it, that kind of thing.
Or res you, and you become one of his, your guy actually becomes one of his posse.
Nice. Yeah, that could be a possibility, especially cool. for the PvP. Just res you back up and then send you out, and congratulations, you can now play as a ghoul or a zombie.
Yep. So there's a lot of fun ideas that we could do.
Okay, cool. So obviously this is kind of cheating, but probably where all the spawn points are. I know you've got close to 500-600 hours in game. I got
about 600. The coders have about 1,300 over me, but I think they keep their machines on overnight. So I think they're cheating a little bit.
Well, I mean, you were the first botter from the sounds of it, so why not? They had to learn from someone. But that being said, what's your record for existing in the game? How long have you been able to go without getting killed? And if so, what was the point where you got killed and then you said, son of a, that kind of situation?
I was about 10 days in, and then basically I went up against one of the forest giants, and I just got smashed. And of course I did go, wow, son of a gun. And that kind of reset my whole thing. But it was about 10 days, and that was because I made a mistake. Of course, I balanced it, and then I go charging in like a Dumbo, thinking, well, I got a Grey Reaver, and I have Evan Steel. This is going to be a no-brainer. Then not realizing what I actually balanced the creature to. I'm like, oh, yeah, he does do almost 100 points of damage. And, the Evan Steel is good armor, but if, it's already halfway through its durability, it's not going to last too long. So... that was a bad mistake. So the longest has been 10 days for me. Most of the time, my guys are like 1 or 2 days because I'm busy testing stuff. But there you have it.
Okay. New question that I actually like. Is there a possibility of territory control within the PvP or just in the game itself? I know you don't want to turn it into an MMO, but is the chance for like SimCity player? What's the player limit per server right now?
Right now, we're at 8 players, and we did that purposely. That was done so that we can manage the technology, we can manage the back end, and also for stability. So that and the idea is that we can hammer out bugs, and then we can increase capacity. and then we can hammer out more bugs, versus saying, hey guys, we have 64 players, even though only 8 of you can really play. We're not going to go that route. It's basically 8 players with the intent that over time, as we hammer the technology, fix bugs, improve stability, we will increase those numbers. So there's that. What was the other question?
The other question was, is there a chance for, say, city building? I mean, I would assume it would make, yeah.
So yes, the idea is that you'll be able to build your communities. You know, we're going to give you more housing templates. You can build cooler stuff. You'll be able to put props up that kind of decorate, you know, your area as a group, as a clan, that kind of signify that this is our part of the island. We own it.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm not seeing any more. First off, thank you for going over the hour that I guess we were going for. But thank you so much for giving us all this time. Are there any last words that you want to throw out to the teaming masses?
Yeah, sure.
Somebody
Absolutely.
just asked what your favorite part of the game is, out of curiosity. What's your favorite part?
I love just the whole idea of being able to build I love being able to just start, build up, and have the freedom to do what I want to do. So if I want to go chop wood, I can go chop wood. If I want to go mine rocks, I can go mine rocks. Or if I want to go kill things, I can go do that. And all that intertwines back into, you know, things that kind of improve my overall survivability in the world. So that's what I love about it, is there are a lot of different things that I can do that increase the odds of me surviving in the Savage Lands. And as a designer, being able to build that stuff out and give players, it's exciting. As a gamer, I love that. I love that about the genre. I also love the diversity in the creatures, being able to interact. You know, I just don't have one creature that I know is static somewhere on the map. We have creatures that are built into different, you know, areas and biomes that, you know, you got to go to one. So you don't realize this. We do have wolves, but on the island on the side of the island that you start on, those are the hill stalkers. If you go to the other side of the island, they're actually dire wolves that roam that part of the island. So, I mean, these are little things. There was actually a lot of thought put into how the creatures are set up, and that's what I love. To me, you know, in addition to being able to build myself up as a character and have the flexibility to do what I want, it's the creatures and the fantasy of this world that you know, continually in my mind tells a story that I love. So, it's been a pleasure building it. I'm looking forward to continuing to expand on it. It's exciting.
Ooh, hey, now they're coming out of the woodwork. Will there be different seasons, or will it always be a permanent winter?
It is the Savage Lands, the Sundered Isle is permanent winter, but that doesn't mean as we add some of the content that we want to add that certain areas of the island don't change up, or that the certain islands of the area change up a little bit. But the island itself is cold, brutal. It is the Savage Lands. It's so, yeah. But we do have grander plans.
Okay. Well, I know we're going to be wrapping it up soon, according to the chat. But two quick questions. Is there an intention for an in-depth combat system? That's actually a good one. An in-depth combat system with directional attacks and blocking. I mean, we've already talked about projectile weapons. So
I don't necessarily want to go hardcore Dark Souls, but I would like to add more powerful attacks. I do want to add shields, weapons that give you, you know, different variety in attacks, from more powerful to lighter attacks. So there's a lot of cool things that I want to do there. We're just kind of, you know, we're just getting started. So expect the combat system to evolve with time, and as we get weapons in. And truthfully, it's that particular system is going to be heavily iterated on with time. But I will say, I don't want to get heavy with like repost and parry and things like that, because I don't necessarily feel it makes sense for the fluid experience that we want to build. But things like shields and heavier attacks and more powerful attacks, those kind of things make sense. So, but who's to say? I mean, again, I'll say it now. In 4 months, who knows, right?
So basically, it's a stay tuned. We've got some awesome stuff coming down the pike. Yep,
and you know, I'll tell viewers out there, hey, visit our community. I love ideas. Please go give us suggestions. And if it is the will of the community to change certain things, I guarantee you I'll listen. Our team will listen. We are at a point now where we're making the game for you. Now, again, I will say I don't want to make World of Warcraft, but within what makes sense for this world. We will change things. We will fix things that players don't like, and that's our promise to the community, our promise to those players that have purchased the game. We're not going to be devs that are like, hey, we got it out there and we'll maybe update it once in a couple months. No, we actually want them to update it once every week or once every 2 weeks. We have a timer in the game to keep us honest that we'll put up that says update in 5 days. It's to keep us honest and committed to the player base.
Fantastic. And I think that's what everybody, that's what I certainly like to see, is when a game gets released, that the developers actually, support it. They don't just kind of throw it out there and say, okay, on to the next project. This is for the long haul then.
We're committed for the long haul. If you visit the Steam forums, you'll find that I post all the time. I'm always there answering questions. Mm-hmm. Whether they're answers that you want to hear or answers that you don't want to hear, because I'm really transparent. But I will answer questions, and I have a lot of people on my friends list. A lot of guys like to ping me, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in the middle of fixing bears right now. There's so a lot of I have no problem. I'm one of those open developers that loves chatting with players. I mean, that just goes back to my old community lineage at Westwood. I love interacting with fans. I think the fans are what makes the game. So, we can build a good experience, but this is one of those things. I think that it's going to take, all of us working together to make something really epic over time.
Cool. So the question was just asked about the price for the game. Right now, it is on Steam for $14.99. It is 40% off the regular price, and from what I understand, that's only a temporary price drop. So you might want to grab it soonish. But either way, I can tell you with no problem whatsoever, no shilling, I swear, that it is definitely worth the full price. It's $24.99 regularly. Right now, $14.99. So snag it now, or otherwise wait and get it at the higher price. They like money. I think that's the last question we'll have time for. Because if they don't get money, they don't make stuff. It's really simple.
The better the game does, I mean, in all honesty, being transparent, if we got everybody, we got a good steady flow, we can build up the team. I can add more resources to the team, which means more content, more stuff. I mean, it really helps us out as a developer to better the game for you in the long run. But that doesn't mean we're not going to not support it. We're still going to support it. It just means more stuff can come online quicker.
Okay. And, last question, I swear, because I can't take any more after this. The question has been brought up. So there's no... Is this going to end up being not that I think it's going to, but is there any possibility of it ending up being like a pay-to-win scenario where the people that pay for the DLC will get better chances to survive? No? No. You just want to see people die all over the place, right?
I already do that enough, and I have a lot of fun with it. And it's good. There's going to be no pay-to-win DLC or anything like that. If we do something, long term, and granted, we still have to discuss about expansion and DLC plans, but it would be more of an expansion content to the game that you have to buy. I know. Yeah, I'm not even going to go down that path, but no.
Okay. I think that should take care of that. Again, reminder, folks, if the keys haven't already been given out, there are keys that are going to be given out for the best questions that have been done. Winners have already been selected. Fantastic, so I don't have to say that again. Other than that, Chris, do you have any parting words for everybody that's listening right now?
Yeah, I just, for everybody that's already purchased the game, I want to say thank you. It means a great deal to us that you went out, and I know early access is one of those, it's kind of a trust thing. As developers, we're going to be very committed to this product to make a great product for the long haul. Please head over to the Steam forums if you got ideas, feedback. If you have bugs, we want to hear them. It's the only way we're going to fix them. If we know about them. So Chloe does a great job. Our community manager is great about getting us the bugs and getting them into our database so that we can get in there and fix them. Chloe's right here. So a big thing for me is just, thank you. We greatly appreciate, everybody being part of this experience. This is our first game as a small, doing very small team. So it means a lot to us when people buy the game. Selling one copy of the game is a huge thing. So it means, does a lot for us. So all I can say is thank you. Please, if not, I want to say next week we're looking at running a sale. We're looking at getting our 4-pack on sale. So we'll be like a 33% discount instead of being $100. Retails for $89. So it'll be like $59, I think. So it'll be a huge kind of cool bundle for players that want to, gift to friends. So even though our promotional offer will eventually kind of flutter out, we are going to have another offer. We're going to try to keep that going. That's our way of saying thanks for the support.
Awesome. So you said what, $59 for how many copies?
It'll be for 4 copies. That's what we're shooting for. Of course, now I say that it could change. We'll see where it ends up. I'm still waiting to get some approval from Valve, but hopefully by next week we'll have a 4-pack offer out there for everybody. How's that?
Well, I mean, still, you figure for the cost of a single game, I'm going to shill for you. For the cost of a single game, you get 4 copies so that you and 3 friends can go get killed. Awesome. Yeah. I think that's worthwhile. But God, Chris, thank you for coming along. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know we were given an hour, or we discussed an hour, but I am so glad that we ran over. I really am. For the shilling, basically, if anybody wants to go get the game, you can get it on Steam right now. Go now. Why are you still watching this? Go. Open a tab. I don't care. But go to savagelandsgame.com. You can also get the links, get information, keep abreast of all the news and whatnot. The Steam forum page, or the Steam community, is very, very active. So if you need to know anything about the game, that is going to be the place to do it. Chris, thank you so much. I wanted to keep the Westwood Studios. I know how much it hurts, so just keep strong.
That's old school right there, my friend. The old school Westwood boys. Still talk to them. It was a great. It was a glorious time. The Wild West was for us, for the gaming industry. The '90s was the Wild West. So yeah, it was a very cool time. So thank you. We again greatly appreciate everybody, all the support, and hope we get. Guys, feel free to head over to the forums. If you pick up the game and you got a problem, I can take it on the chin. We're a good team. Feel free to let us know what you think. And I guarantee you changes. I'm actually when we're done with this, I'm gonna go put some berries on bushes, so when you cut trees down, you'll actually get tree nuts and berries. Isn't that an awesome Friday night?
Actually, yes. And I'll see if I can kill myself by chopping down a tree and having it fall on me.
There you go.
Great.
Cool.
So, again, thank you so much, Chris. Again, to shill, it is on Steam right now for $14.99. Go get it before it goes back up to $24.99. There will be trees and dogs and wolves and timber wolves and dire wolves and everything that you could possibly want to kill you that will kill you in game. It is worth it. If you check back with us again, we'll probably, Chris, we'd love to do more stuff with you. So at some point, we'd like to get more of those stories. So if you're up for it, we'd love to have you back.
I'm down. Just check, Chloe's kind of like, she books me for this stuff. She actually came and pulled my ear and said, you got to break away from your bushes. You got to do an interview. I'm like, oh. So I love doing this stuff. I love nothing more than talking about the game and all the cool stuff that we're going to be doing. So I'm more than happy to come back for another hour and a half and chat. No problem at all.
Nice. So again, savagelandsgame.com. Steam, it's available now. Go get it. We are OPNoobs. You can find us at OPNoobs.com. You can also check back with us every week, and we will have a new streaming with the devs. Chris Rubyor, thank you so much. I commend you for being you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Had a lot of fun.
All right. Awesome.
Have a good night.